Hello, people of YouTube. Welcome back, everybody. So fun stuff. Main spars. Here we go. Step number one. Mistake number one. Very exciting. I don't know why. I read this step so many times. Oh, and there I am leak checking the tank again. Anyways, but I read that step so many times, and my mind decided that the long J channel needed to be closest to the fuselage or the inboard point. And yeah, so that was completely wrong. Read the instructions. For some reason, I failed to do that. I mean, I did it 3 or 4 times, but I just completely missed that it's short then long J channel. Yeah, so anyways, I had to reorder J channel. That was so much fun. Came from Vans in a long PVC pipe, which was by far the smartest way to ship it, but comical. Yeah, so anyways, as everybody says, it's just a massive amount of drilling, countersinking, and then putting nut plates on. To note, I'm really actually very much enjoying not countersinking. Like that much countersinking is never fun, right? But I'm enjoying the way that the plans are written out, because it like, while this is a monumental task, it's not quite as much time, or it doesn't seem like it, as ailerons or flaps or something like that. And it's so repetitive, you're not having to bounce back and forth and whatnot. So, anyways, oh, and there you'll see right by my drill, the blue jar. That's BioLube. I was trying to see if that was going to help in my countersinking. And honestly, I kind of found that it, while of course a lubricant in theory should be the best idea, it seemed like I then had to set my cage to countersink deeper, because it allowed it to glide a little bit better, so it didn't quite cut as deep. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense in my mind, but for whatever reason, it didn't. It seems like it was better to not use BioLube and just let it grab. Right there, you're seeing me use some Aladyne. I thought that was going to be the best for stopping corrosion in the holes that you cut. I I bought outdated Aladyne because the normal stuff is $150 or something, like completely outrageous. It was outdated by like a couple of months, and even though it was outdated by a couple of months, it didn't seem like it was effective. So I essentially threw that in the trash, and at the end you'll see I just primered like I normally would primer everything else. But yeah, there's a marathon session of countersinking. You'll see me take breaks just because your arm gets so freaking tired from doing it. And I use, actually, I think this would be a great time to talk about countersinking. Even though you've done a lot of it by now, if you started with empennage. If you're starting with the wings, then you haven't. This is your first intro, which is terrifying because these spars are not cheap to reorder. But anyways, so talking about countersinking, here's an example of chatter, and this you see with a 3-flute countersinker. And I found that no matter what I did, I get a lot of this. A buddy of mine uses a 3-flute, and here's an example of that. So this is what almost everybody buys. And a buddy of mine uses this with an air drill on really low speeds, and he gets great circular countersinks out of it. I personally love this, which is a single flute countersinker. There's pluses and minuses, and if you're going to use this, I would do exactly what I did, which is experiment with it on scrap aluminum first, because these things will grab. The single flute I bought looks a little bit different than this. I bought it from Cleveland Tools, and anyways, the advantage is I don't ever get any chatter. I've never gotten chatter from a single flute. I don't think it's even possible, but then again, in working with aluminum, I have come to figure out just about anything is possible if you try hard enough. So with the single flute, I find that I get a even cylindrical hole. That's the advantage of it. The drawback is the initial bite, it grabs and pulls quite hard. So that initial bite, if you're taking a lot of material out, that initial bite will really pull it down hard. So your cage needs to be set very precisely. So with a 3-flute, you can just kind of press it in there, and you can almost vary the depth. Even though you're using a cage, you can vary the depth just by how hard you push. With that single flute, it's going to take the same chunk every single time, because it's going to grab, it's going to bite, and it's going to pull down on that cage. So, there's advantages and disadvantages. And I have the, I forget what it's called, but I have the, ball bearing cage, not the steel stop cage or whatever it is. So the slightly more expensive countersink cages are, I figure, have to be quite a benefit. I had one of the less expensive cages, and I stopped using it just because I found that it varied just a bit too much. So, anyways, another thing to note, well, first of all, my buddy Mike's back, helping me out here. You'll have nut plates on the inboard and the outboard. 3 on the inboard, 4 on the outboard. The inboard are for the fuel tanks. That's not negotiable. The outboard, completely negotiable. The outboard was originally, as best as I can tell from my research, the outboard was created for a strobe pack, essentially the electronics that would convert 12 volts or 24 volts, depending on what you were running, into whatever it is that old school strobes needed. Nowadays, fly LEDs, I forget the other one. I should know that, but I'm using fly LEDs. But anyways, that's not needed. So I put out there, hey, just to confirm, these 4 nut plates at the outer edge of the spar, they're not needed, correct? And everybody said, yeah, no, forget about those. You don't need those. And then it was pointed out to me, yeah, you can forget about those, but 2 or 3 people told me, I've used at least 2 of those as grounding points for such and such or this or that. Excuse me. So I went on ahead and just elected to put in all 4 nut plates. I figure if it's already there, why not do it? Maybe I need to mount something. Maybe I need to ground something. It'll be nice just to have something there that I can attach something to. If anything, put an Adele clamp so that I can run a wire loom to the wingtip. I don't know. But I just kind of figured, yeah, that's gonna be an advantage to still have that. Here you can see that I got in the J channels that I ordered. And we're drilling up the last of those J channels. Oh, and right there was a really fun experiment because I had my buddy Mike read the instructions. And I told him to put those onto the spar as the instructions state. And he read the instructions and yet still did the same thing I did, which is put the longer J channel near the inboard and the short one in the outboard. So at least I wasn't the only one that thought it made sense for the longer one to be more inboard. Oh, and trying to get those to nest inside each other, I don't, I did the measurements. When you look at how they sit inside the wing ribs, to me, and we'll see once I get down to putting on the top skins, but there was, in theory, it should be like a 1/16 gap that one sits on top of the other. In all actuality, no matter what I did, it was like 1/8, getting close to like a quarter more of a gap, no matter how I bent the J channel flange a little bit and stuff like that to get them to nest inside each other correctly. So I did the measurements with the wing ribs, and that looks to me like an allowable tolerance. I will try to remember to report back on that. And it does seem like, as you can tell in this last little bit, that the kids are seeming to enjoy working out in the garage a little bit more from time to time, which is really fun for me. So yeah, this is attaching nut plates, or no, this is countersinking again. And you can see all the freaking countersinks. And then yeah, at the end here, just tape them up to where they don't get overspray and primer them. And then next up will be the ribs. And I'll see you then. Take care, everybody.